Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. What are we going to talk about today? As you saw in the title, going to be taking a little bit of a break from these live streams, and I'll tell you why. And for those that are coming in early, I'm going to be repeating this a couple times, just for the people that have come in throughout the stream, so they know. So, going to talk about, hey, what's going on, Reed? Good to see you. The topics I'm going to discuss, kind of a quick rundown, is why I'm taking a couple-week break from the live stream. Going to give a quick update on my contracting, the usual channel update, and then just take Q&A. What's going on, guys? Good to see you. PD the Pro, good to see you. Ben, what's going on? So, why am I taking a break from the live stream? As you guys probably know, I am, and Kilo and I talked about this last night on Twitter. So the reason I'm taking a break from the live stream is, as you guys know, I do this on my phone. I can't share my screen, so I'm pretty limited. So I'm limited to topics that I can only talk about. You know, I can't show code, I can't show design. So it's pretty limiting what I can do on the live stream. So the reason I'm taking a break is because I'm going to, force myself to, it's only a couple weeks, Mark, because I'm going to force myself to get my setup ready for what I'm calling live stream 2.0, to where I can actually share my screen. We can do some live coding. I can talk about some design work. I can walk through code on this stream. Long story short, I'm basically out of stuff to talk about where I can just talk to you guys. We talked about the job stuff, talked about a lot of motivational stuff. Just to be quite honest, I'm running out of topics that you can only talk about. So, and the reason I'm going to force myself to kind of take a little break is because I keep procrastinating. I'm like, oh, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. Whereas this way, if I know I stop the stream, because I know I want to live stream, I enjoy it. So this will force me to basically, get my butt in gear, get my live stream set up, good to go. And then hopefully I can make this a lot better for you guys and a lot more interesting. Because I do feel like just talking in this Q&A format, I answer a lot of the same questions. We've talked about a lot of topics. So that being said, if you guys have any suggestions, I know I asked about this last week. If you have any suggestions for what you want to see out of the live stream, whether that's live coding or whatever you guys want, I'm open to suggestions. Like I said, I'm looking to take this live stream to the next level to make it a lot more interesting for you guys. And not kind of the same stuff each and every week. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Let me catch up on the questions. Everybody's saying hi. What's going on, Dilip? Kilo and I, like I said, we're talking about this on Twitter last night. Some live stream softwares like OBS or Wirecast is 500. I don't mind spending the money because I do plan on doing this for the long term and I want to set it up right. And from what I understand about Wirecast, that's like a one-time fee. So it's kind of like buying Final Cut Pro. It's kind of like a one-time fee and then you're good to go. So Mark's recommending OBS. So I haven't even really started looking into this stuff yet, but that's why I want to stop the live stream, to force myself to do it, because I'll keep procrastinating it if I don't. Vlad says some live coding would be nice. Yes, by the way, this Q&A is open to whatever. I don't really have a topic because, like I said, I was kind of running out of topics and really reaching to try to find one. So this last live stream, this Q&A is wide open. Feel free to ask anything. As I'm giving my contracting updates and stuff like that, feel free to ask questions. Just going to be a random Q&A today. And then, like I said, I'm going to take a break for a couple weeks, and then I'll be back in a couple weeks with hopefully a much, much better live stream. Like I said, live stream 2.0 coming back in a couple weeks. All right, so as I'm giving my contracting update, feel free to ask questions like I just said. So let me talk about what's going on with my contract. So the fitness app, and this is just kind of to give you guys a little insight into what I'm working on and how contracting life goes for those that haven't started that yet. So the fitness app I'm working on is kind of interesting because we're building, again, I'm building this app from scratch. And we don't have designs fully done yet. They're almost there. So I'm building a skeletal version of the app. So basically just using basic UI elements. It looks like a horrible app right now, but I'm just building the functionality. But I've actually never built without designs before. It's kind of interesting. So it's been an interesting way to the way I'm looking at it is I'm trying to minimize rework. Because I know the screens I build, I'm going to have to kind of rebuild them anyway once I get designs. So it's been an interesting tactic to kind of build the very minimum I can build, so that when I do have to go, when we get designs, I'm kind of minimizing my rework. So that's an interesting way to work. Thought that would be interesting to share. The other app I'm working on, the other contract, is a voice communications app, and that is with that one. So with the fitness app, I'm the sole developer, just me, 100%. The voice app, it's me and another guy. He started building the app, and I came onto this project. as a secondary developer to help out to get the product launched. So we're about to launch the MVP there. What I've been doing is a lot of bug fixing and polishing and getting it ready. The bulk of the app was already built. So again, I just want to point out the different types of development you can be doing in contracting. Like I said, on one project, I'm the sole developer building it from scratch. On another project, I'm the secondary developer just bug fixing and helping out. So you kind of get a wide variety of work you do while you're contracting. And then the third contract I'm on, so yes, I am on 3 contracts right now. That's why the YouTube videos have been slowing down a little bit, is because it's a good problem to have, I guess. I just have too much contracting work. Like I said, doing 45 to 50 hours a week is a lot. So the third contract I'm on is actually the one I was working on before, and I'm just kind of on what's called maintenance. So a lot of times when you build an app, you take it from 0 to launch, and then software is not over. Like, software is never done. That's just version 1.0. Then they want version 1.1, 1.2, and bug fixes. So so the third contract I'm on is more of a maintenance project that I did build from scratch. So I'm working on the 1.1 release of that and bug fixes there. So again, wide variety of what you can work on in contracting. That is partly of why I really like it. Keeps things fresh. So that's what's going on with my contracts. Let me go ahead and catch up on some questions here. Twitch has a large programming community, so it might be worth it to dual stream both here and there, so you can attract a new audience. Yes, I have thought about streaming, like, not doing 2 different streams, but just having multiple cameras set up and streaming on a couple different services. But again, I want to make sure my live stream is pretty good, and hopefully that's what live stream 2.0 is going to be. Then we'll kind of maybe explore that, Reed. What advice would you give for someone trying to get into freelancing? It depends. Are you a junior developer and this is your first job? If that's the case, then I would say freelancing is probably rough first job. You should go get experience at a company first. If it's not your first job and you have experience as a iOS developer, then I would just start going to meetups, start networking. I've said this before in other streams. All of my contracts have come through my network. The contract agency I work with came through my bootcamp alumni network. The other project I'm working on is a guy I used to play basketball with 3 years ago. So it's hard for me to give advice on like how to go out and find contracts where you're just, kind of cold emailing or soliciting, because mine have come through my network. So maybe I've been a little lucky there. What is a good simple project to do as a beginner for iOS development to go over all the main concepts? And again, I say this a lot, so for those of you that are here every week, forgive me, but the main thing you need to demonstrate in an app is, if you were looking for one thing, is the whole network call process. Again, build an app, make a network call, retrieve some JSON, parse that JSON out, and then display that data you parse from the JSON into a table view or a collection view. You're going to see that in every app and pretty much every interview. So everybody's looking for that one concept they should study. That's definitely a core concept in iOS development. Siddharth asked, what do you think would be an ideal rate for a junior developer working on an app with basic UI design? How much should one charge for an app consisting of table views, navigation bar, 6 to 7 screens? I mean, that all depends on, that's impossible for me to answer. I can tell you what I would charge for that, but you guys know my rate. It's about 70 an hour. I've been messing around with higher rates, 75, 80 an hour. But yeah, that's what I would charge. But again, that's a Silicon Valley developer. Not to say that like we're better than you. It's just the rate that we charge because of where we live is a lot more than if you live, in another country around the world. So the market you live in, like, will determine the rate. I don't know what the going rate is for the market you live in for your experience. It's going to be different in every single part of the world. So it's a very hard question to answer. Manon says, hi. Nathan, hey, what's up? Daniel says, I'm struggling to get work online as a freelancer. Upwork seems to think that iOS dev isn't in demand and won't accept my profile. Do you know of any other sites? There's a site I get emails from them all the time. It's called crew.co, like crew, C-R-E-W. I think it's .co or .com. Just Google it. You have to apply and you have to get accepted. But if you get accepted, I get emails from them every day with projects. I haven't accepted one and gone through that process yet, but I know I get emails every day with projects, so it's good. Manon says, what is hourly rate for your contracts? Is charging $25 an hour minimum too high for a starter? Again, Manon, I have 2 years experience and I charge, we'll call it $75 an hour for contracting. So but again, that's the San Francisco / Silicon Valley rate. I don't know what part of the country you're in. You have to do your own research in your market because it's going to be different in every single market. But again, just to give you my example, 75 an hour, 2 years experience in Silicon Valley. That's what I do. And like I said, and like I mentioned this before in my how much do I charge? So I do a video all about my contracting rate, but I've thrown that number out there and nobody has batted an eye. They accept it right away. There's not like, hey, can you do 70 or 65? So I may be throwing out too low of a number. That's why the next time I go into contract negotiations, if there is a next time, because I am going to be looking for full-time jobs in 2018, I am going to experiment with a higher rate. Whatever you learned in boot camp, was the knowledge enough to work at your job, or did you need to Google a lot? So this is from Sankit. This is a good question, and I've said this before. The knowledge you get in boot camp is not worth the money you're going to spend in boot camp. You could spend a couple weeks just going down the YouTube rabbit hole or raywunderlich.com or any of these tutorial sites, and you'll learn just as much in the boot camp. The main value of the boot camp was getting experience working with other developers on a project. That's huge, huge experience, and the boot camp did do that. And the boot camp forces you to work for 8 to 10 hours a day on your craft. It's a lot easier said than done to be like, I'm going to take 2 months off and just study iOS by yourself. It's pretty hard to, like, when you're just sitting at home doing it by yourself, force yourself every day for 8 to 10 hours to study iOS. Like, that's a lot. However, if you pay this money and you go to the boot camp, it forces you to do that. So that was good. But to answer your question, just the knowledge you get from it is not worth the money. But there are other things you get that may be worth it. Hey, Mark, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. Before I even read your question, Mark is here pretty much every live stream. I talk to him on Twitter sometimes, so I appreciate your support, Mark. Thanks a lot. Thanks for sharing your content and your diligence. You're a bright star in the Swift community. Just wanted to encourage you. Appreciate that, Mark. Again, thanks a lot. I know I see you all the time here in the streams and making comments on the videos, so greatly appreciate that. You're awesome. Thanks. Rahul says, it's become very difficult to work on a project which is developed by other developers. Takes a little time to understand the flow and all. What do you think? Yes, Rahul, this is why in my videos I stress and preach code readability over, code can get too clever sometimes, where it's like so tricky that only you understand it because you built this cool, clever thing, and you may have got something down to 3 lines of code because you were super clever, but at the same time, that makes it very hard for somebody coming into the code base to like figure out what's going on because they don't know this clever little trick that you pulled. So I always stress readability as my number one. Well, obviously the code has to work, but after the code working, readability is my next priority because I have felt the pain of coming into a project and just being like, I have no idea what's going on. And people name their variables only one letter, like variable, like let A equal this. That's just not descriptive at all. Yes, it may shorten your code and minimize your lines, but there's a balance, right? You don't want to make your code so readable that it's now 800 lines of code just because you went for crazy readability. But at the same time, it's a spectrum. There's a balance you got to create. But code readability is huge, as it sounds like you're experiencing coming into a project. It's hard if people don't write good readable code. It's hard to read. Adai says, Sean, I love your tutorials. When are you going to do some more algorithms, please? Yes, so trust me, I have so many videos I want to do, and I want to get back to, so the Patreon community, each week, they get to vote on videos, and that's kind of what determines at least one of the videos I make that week. And I've been putting up algorithm questions, and so I list, the way it works is if in the Patreon community, I list 3 videos, and they vote on it each week, and the second place finisher carries over, for the week. And I've been putting algorithm questions on there every week, they just haven't been getting voted on. So I will probably do one of those eventually just because I want to finish out that series. But yes, more are on the way. Javine says, hi Sean, thanks for the vlogs. Appreciate it. Yeah, I want to get back to the vlogs. Here's the weird truth about why I haven't been doing vlogs, and this is bad, but I've ran out of drone footage. You guys know I do the drone footage in the beginning of the vlogs. I've basically ran out of my drone footage I built up, so I need to go out, I don't know, one day this week I'll probably go out and get a bunch of drone footage around the city so I can stock up again. But that's the truth, is I want to do a vlog, but I don't have the drone footage, and I can't have an intro without a drone footage. It's off-brand. Madan says, thank you, love from India. Thanks. Bashir says, hey Sean, computer science student here, been learning Swift and iOS for 7 months now, currently working on my first app. What do I need to know about iOS to start applying for jobs? So the main thing a lot of jobs ask for is to have an app on the App Store that you've built. So it sounds like you are currently working on your first app. I would definitely get that out on the App Store. And then I know this is self-promotion, but just go to my YouTube channel and watch that iOS interview question series, all those topics. There's a couple topics I haven't done yet. Networking is a big one. But for the most part, I've hit up all the topics that were the major ones. So if you can answer all those questions in that series and you have your own app on the App Store, I think you'll be good to go for your first junior iOS developer job. Sorry, let me grab a drink here. Siddhar says, have you ever made a project where the client, sorry, this chat fades away way too quickly. Have you ever made a project where the client had an Android app and provided you with source code? If yes, what was your experience? No, I haven't. Here in Silicon Valley, at least in the companies that I've been dealing with, they go iOS first and then Android. So I've never had it backwards. Don't get me wrong, I know some companies do Android first, then iOS. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. But in my experience, it's always been iOS first, then Android. So I've always been on the opposite end of that, where I need to develop for iOS, and then I need to tell my Android developers, here's why we designed this, here's how the screen works. And then basically everybody on Android has been porting my iOS app, whereas I haven't gone vice versa. So sorry, Siddharth, I can't answer that one because I don't have that experience. Drew says, really enjoying the videos. Thank you. Kylo, you're going to have to tell me on Twitter. I don't know if it's Kylo or Kilo. I keep wanting to say Kylo because I'm a Star Wars fan and Kylo Ren, but I don't know. Let me know. For people looking how much they should make, you can check out Comparably. Yeah, I haven't checked out the website, but I've seen them advertising. It's called Comparably to see. But yeah, it all depends on your market. Hot New Music says, hey, what's up? Carry off, hello. Thanks for everything, man. No problem. Kamal says, do employers actually take a look at the applications you made, or is it just okay to have any app on the App Store? Yeah, they're probably going to download it and play with it. Don't get me wrong. They're not going to spend 45 minutes dissecting it, but they probably are going to, just like your resume, you hear about that, like make sure your resume can pass like the 6-second skim test. You know, people aren't going to sit there and dissect your resume. They're only going to give it a couple seconds. So the same thing is for your app, and this is why I preach presentation and attention to detail in the design, because it's all about first impression. So if you open your app and your first couple screens are very impressive and that first initial user experience is super good, that's going to do well for you. Because like I said, they just don't have time. They may be interviewing 15 candidates. They can't take, you know, a half hour, 45 minutes to dive into each and everyone's app. So they will download it and they will kind of skim it. So that's the answer there. Don Park says, hey Sean, what 5 projects do you recommend every junior developer to have? Just got hired as a junior developer, congratulations. And I'm wondering what side project I should be working on that should be my portfolio. I don't think there's any like certain 5, but I would have apps in there that demonstrate the common stuff. So for example, wherever you got hired, I don't know, maybe they don't deal with camera or AV foundation and video. A lot of apps do, so I would recommend one side project, you know, focusing on the camera, the video, because that is in a lot of apps, just to show that you can do that. And then another example would be like having an app centered around MapKit. You know, just some things that are common in apps that like you see every day. You know, maps are very common in apps. So if the app you're working on doesn't deal with that, make a side project dealing with that to show that you can do that. And same thing for, like I said, I don't know, pick a topic, whether that's the camera, video, maps, chatbots, I don't know, just things that are common in iOS development. Just kind of make a project centered around that to show that you can do that and to get experience in it. That being said, there are like a lot of topics, so that may be overwhelming, but just start with one. Rashawn says, I want to get into iOS development at present. I have no idea about anything. Where should I start from? I always recommend the Ray Wunderlich, as always. They have a basic Swift that's for free. Start there. And then, yeah, just start going down the YouTube rabbit hole. There's tons of YouTube channels out there. I call it YouTube University. I do believe you can learn anything on YouTube for free. So I would just kind of do some searching on there and start building some stuff. Okay, so it's Kilo. Thanks. All right. Matthias says, when can I reserve my app's name so that nobody else can use it? Does it have to be ready to be released for the store? If I hire a designer for my title image, I want to be safe. Yeah, I don't 100% know the answer to this question. I'm pretty sure your app's name's not taken until it's on the App Store. just for that reason. I mean, people could squat on so many app names if you didn't actually have to release them. So I'm pretty sure you can't reserve a name. You have to launch your app. I could be wrong. Again, don't quote me 100%. I'd have to research that, but I'm pretty sure you don't lock down that name until you actually release it. Like I said, if not, people could just create a bunch of projects with that name. And but I know your bundle ID probably has something to do with it. Anyway, I'd have to look into that one. Kamal says, do you want to learn Android development in the future? No, I don't want to. I may, just because I think that may be just the smart career move, just to be more versatile. However, I'm not a fan of Android. We'll just leave it at that. So I don't want to develop for it, but you know, I may have to just because. Any recommendations for websites where I can find more DevOps-oriented tasks? I tried Upwork, but they declined my profile several times. Can you be more specific about what DevOps-oriented tasks you're talking about? I mean, I've heard the term DevOps. I'm not super familiar with what exactly they do, just to be honest with you. I don't deal with a lot of DevOps people in my day-to-day. Hey, Dom, what's going on? Good to see you. Yeah, Mark says about the naming thing, I think you just have to create it in iTunes Connect. I don't think it needs to be released. That might be a good point. Like I said, I'd have to look into that one. But yeah, Mark, I think if you register in iTunes Connect, that might be true. Kilo says, Sean is doing open topics. Yep, ask your question now. Yeah, I'll go ahead and give a quick channel update since it looks like I'm kind of towards the bottom of the questions, just to give time for the questions to pop back up. So we just crossed 5K subs. Thank you guys. That's awesome. It's been a little over 5 months, so I'm averaging about 1,000 subs a month. So my goal was 10,000 subs in the first year. So I'm on pace for that. So thank you guys. That's so cool. And what else is going on with the channel? Yeah, so like I said, the videos have slowed down because I'm on 3 contracts right now. And it's about 45, 50 hours a week. It's just a lot. But I am trying to pump out at least 2 a week. Trying to get back to that 3 mark. But it's been tough. It's been pretty busy. But other than that, what's going on with the channel? It's pretty much it. Just the live stream 2.0 was the big stuff. So let's get back to some questions here. Dimitar says, like your answer for Android, keep up the good work. Yeah, you know, I don't want to, like, for the Android phones, the actual hardware are awesome. Like, you can't argue with the hardware. It's just the operating system I can't wrap my head around. Anyway, Kamal says, from your experience as a contractor, am I going to be okay just doing iOS apps? That's what I do. But again, it's your market. I think here in Silicon Valley, there are enough companies and startups here looking for native developers that, yeah, I don't think that's an issue. But if your market's different, then maybe you have to know both. Like I said, I mean, I know I keep saying that a lot in this episode, but it's really market specific. I mean, like, I know some people I've talked to in India were telling me about how React Native is so huge. So maybe learning React Native is a priority for you because it's huge in India. I'm not saying you should do that. I don't know, research it first. But the point is, every market is going to be different. I can only speak for the US Silicon Valley market. But speaking for that market, yes, you will be okay just doing iOS apps. Is an iPhone emulator good enough to test the app, or is an iPhone recommended for basic apps? I always recommend testing on the device. For example, if you're doing stuff with the camera and video, obviously the simulator can't do that. So the simulator is pretty limited in stuff it can do. If you're trying to connect to a Bluetooth device or something, I mean, you can fake it in the code, but I don't know. I like getting the real experience and seeing how the app feels in your hand, because that is kind of a weird, intangible thing to describe, like how an app feels when you're actually navigating around in your hand versus seeing it on the simulator. So I'm a big fan of using devices. But the simulator will get you through probably 90% of things, though. Lately, I've struggled with auto layout constraints that cannot be set in the interface builder. So now I'm setting some constraints in code as well. Have you struggled with this as well? I'm not sure what you mean by constraints that cannot be set in interface builder. I haven't come across that. I'm trying to, you have me thinking now off the top of my head, have I ever come across that? A constraint that can't be set in interface builder. You'd have to elaborate on that. I've never come across that. So I have done constraints in code because for one of my interviews, I had to create a complete UI not using storyboard. So auto layout in code, building all my views in code. So I have done it before. Again, the main reason I don't like doing stuff in code is because I just think it's so much clutter. And then when you're doing all your auto layout in code too, that just adds even more to it. So that's why I'm a fan of storyboard. But yeah, so there's that. Yep, new news. Yep, Kilo's got his own channel. He started out for iOS. Go ahead and check him out. News has been watching him as well. Sankit says, when I see your videos, it seems quite clean and easy to understand. How did you get where you are now? Any books, videos that we could follow to learn the best way to write your code? So how I got to where I'm at is you have to have a passion for it. I mean, I say it's my career, but it's also my hobby. Obviously, I do all that contracting work, and then on the side, I have a YouTube channel about that work. So it's like, it's not like I go to work from 9 to 5 and be like, okay, I'm not coding again for the rest of the night or weekends. And I'm not saying that every coder has to be that way. It's just, it's my hobby as well as my career. So that helps because, like I said, it's pretty much nonstop learning to code and programming and building stuff and experimenting with different things and this YouTube channel. So I'm kind of constantly engulfed in all things iOS and Swift. So that helps me learn a lot. Where I came up with like writing good, clean code is having a bad experience of working with, I don't want to say it's a bad experience. It wasn't a bad experience working with another person's code. It's just any time you see somebody else's code, you're not used to it. Hell, even if you look at your own code from 6 months ago, you're like, what did I do? So just being in that experience of, on the other side, trying to understand someone's code, and again, I'm not saying they wrote bad code, it's just they weren't stressing readability, and that kind of, like I said, was really shaped me to making readability my priority. But other than that, I just pretty much completely engulfed myself in all things iOS. Dimitri asked, did you try to launch a startup? No, I'm not against that idea, and I think I have put myself in a position to where, you know, I can code, I can design, feel like I have good marketing skills. Like I feel like I've built up enough skills to where like I could be a good startup CEO, because you know, when you're first starting out and you start off with, you know, 2 employees, you have to do everything, and I feel like I could do everything. It's just I don't know if I want to. Basically, let me put it this way: I'm not looking for that stress. However, if an amazing idea comes along and like I can't stop thinking about it, I can't sleep, then yeah, I'll do it. I'm not going to start a startup just to start a startup. But if the right idea came along, yeah, I'd be all about it. But I'm not actively seeking that headache, because it is a startup is. I mean, I've worked in a bunch, and yeah, it's an interesting life. Kamal says, I am not from India. I'm not sure if I said you were. Okay, I don't know. I just use India from as an example because I know a lot of my audience is from India, and that's a lot of the feedback I get and how that market is. But Indra says, hi from Indonesia. Have you ever been here? I have not been in Indonesia. Kilo says, what's your endgame goal? Any interest in doing dev talks at like 360 iDev? So my endgame goal is, I have a couple different ones. I want to be angel investing in Silicon Valley in like 15 to 20 years. So I got to make a lot of money in the next 20 years to be able to do that. So that's the ultimate end goal. That's what I want to be doing with my career. As far as like speaking at conferences, I think, yeah, I mean, I want to go down that path. Like I think it'd be interesting to try and do that. So I haven't mentioned this yet, but I am going to be speaking at an online conference in a couple weeks. It's free. I'll put more details out about that as they become finalized. So be on the lookout for that. I'll be talking more about that here in a little bit here in probably the next few days. But yeah, that's kind of, and you got to start small. So this is just a free online conference, and then if you do well there, then you step up to the next level conference, and you got to build your way up to talking at these big conferences. But yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I think it'd be cool. Travel around, meet a bunch of developers, give some talks. Which architecture pattern do you prefer, MVC, MVVM, or Viper? I always go with MVC just because it's what I know. I've dabbled in MVVM a little bit, but I haven't built a full project in it, so I can't really speak to it, and I've never even touched Viper. Basically, I go with MVC because that's tried and true, is what I know, and oftentimes when you're on contracts, you're on a tight timetable, so I don't really have time to experiment with new architectures. I just got to kind of get the job done as fast as possible and as good as possible. Sean, do you also doing the backend create API too? No, in my contracts I work with a professional backend developer, so I don't have to mess with Firebase or do anything like that. They basically build the backend. I just get an API, a well-documented API, and I just consume that API. Akarov says, "Hi Sean, you changed my life in the last 2 months." That's awesome to hear. I hope that's true and not just messing with me. That's kind of the point of this channel, is I get to reach 5,000 people subscribed people, and then hopefully I can help them change careers and get jobs into iOS, because that's what I did. I didn't become an iOS developer till I was 33. That's when I decided to make the change. I'm 35 now. So if I can inspire other people to make that change, because it's the best decision I've ever made in my life. I went from like not caring about my job to like fully loving my job. Like I just talked about, it's not only my career, it's my hobby. So when you can find that, like, that's awesome. So if I can help people find that, and the financial income that comes with being a software developer, once you actually get out there, is pretty nice. So if I can inspire people to make that change and have the same experience I did, that's awesome. So it's good to hear, Gaurav. Kamal says, when do you do your streams? I do them every Sunday at 9 a.m. However, it's actually probably a good time to mention this now. There's probably a lot of new people here. I am going to be taking about a couple week breaks. I don't want to put a number on it. A couple week break from the live stream, because as you guys know, I'm streaming from my phone. I can't share my computer screen or can't talk about stuff like that. So I'm limited in the stuff I can talk about. I can only talk about stuff that you can discuss, right? I can't share my screen on code. I can't show you some designs or some screenshots and talk about design best practices. So I'm taking a couple week break while I get my official live stream set up, ready to go for what I'm calling live stream 2.0. So I will be able to, I won't be doing it from my phone. I'll be doing it from my computer. I can share my computer screen. We can talk about code. We can do some live coding. We can do some design stuff. So that will be coming in the next couple weeks. So this is going to be the last live stream for a couple weeks, because as you can see, I'm still doing it on my phone. So we're trying to get away from that and trying to make the live stream a lot better for you guys. Ben says, hey, how do you keep your view controllers from getting overblown using MVC? What deals with navigation and networking? So I usually have, I refactor it out a lot. Like I said, I do my best to keep my view controllers to under 200 lines, give or take a little bit. So it's just a lot of refactoring. That's how I deal with it. So with networking, I have like a network manager class, so I just have to, call the answer to your question, I just do, it's very refactoring heavy and pulling stuff out. Yeah, Kilo, thanks for handling the spammer. Gaurav says, Sean, I'm technical lead in the company, but I would like to code more. How can I do that? Just do it. You're the technical lead, right? It sounds like you have some pull. So yeah, I would just either, and if you can't do it within your company, like I understand that might mess with, the company dynamics, but just start doing it on the side. Start doing some side projects. Sean Cotton, what's going on? Good to see you. Sean Cotton's one of my former students. Joel says, hi Sean, on your contracts, do you also have to come up with the UX, or do you start working on the project when the UX is ready and hand it to you? Yeah, so it's different. So the contracting company I work for, the agency that you guys have heard me talk about, we work with a team. So like I said, I have a backend web developer, we have a designer, there's an Android developer, I'm the iOS guy on that team. So in those circumstances, yes, they have a designer, or we have a designer, I get the designs fully done, I just basically implement the designs. However, on my other contract, I'm not designing it, but they do hire a designer. However, like I said, I'm starting to build the stuff without the designs yet, because the designs aren't done, and we don't want to wait on them to start building the infrastructure of the app. So it really all depends on the situation, but for the most part, I get designs sent to me. Do you have to plan to start learning Android development in the future? Nope. I've answered that one on this stream already. But it's mainly because I'm not an Android fan. I may learn it, but I don't want to. Kamal says, is $50 an hour considered low or high? In Silicon Valley, that would be considered low. But again, it depends on your market. Every market's going to be different. Silicon Valley is obviously the most expensive market, so you can charge more. But yeah, it's going to depend on your market. But here, it would be low. I asked you about that because before I meet someone and they told me you're only doing front end because you only make UI and logic related, less logic on app flow system. Yeah, not sure. Ravi, shout out please. All right, what's going on, Ravi? Javine says, I started with freelance works a few months back, but I realized that I need to focus on app architectural skills where my code suffers. Do you have any inputs to have good foundations? For architecture, no. Honestly, it's kind of one of those things that comes with experience, and yeah, I'm trying to think of how I basically how I learned to architecture apps was just by building it, and just by building it, and I built it wrong because I didn't know what I was doing, and feeling the pain of a bad architecture teaches you how to make a good architecture and why you should. So, yeah, I just learned by doing it and messing it up, to be honest with you. That's how you learn. Derek says, "Hi Sean, can you talk about your research pattern when you encounter a topic that you don't know about? For me, my plan is to learn things about CA layer, but I don't know where to start." So, yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. You're developing something, you come across something in the design, you have to implement this. You're like, oh, I can't remember how to do that. So, first thing I do is I Google it, and if it's a major thing like CA layers, not like a major thing. I don't know, I'll look for specific tutorials. If it's something pretty simple, I'll just look for a Stack Overflow. If it's a major install, I'll look for a tutorial video on it or a written blog post tutorial on how to do that. Sanka says, "I absolutely love Swift. I want to be able to create my own API someday. How do I proceed?" Well, server-side Swift, if you want to create your own API, start learning server-side Swift. If you want to write it in Swift, that's what I would do. Miraz says, "Thoughts on the IT carry trade? I think it's going to make the East actually interesting, so that's good." What is your favorite movie? Star Wars, all of them, even the prequels. I know that's bad. I mean, they're the worst of the bunch, but you know, it's like your children. I still love them anyway. All right, guys. Looks like I got to the end of the questions list. If you guys have any last second questions, go ahead and get them in. We're at the 36-minute mark. Is usually when I wrap it up. Mentoring, I do have one mentoring spot left for coaching for students. If you guys don't know what that is, that's 3 one-hour sessions with me. We'll dive into your code base if you're building your own app, or if you don't have your own app, I have projects I can give you. But I do have one opening for a student. So if you're interested in that, does cost money. It's $70 an hour, so $210 for the package of 3. But again, I do about an hour of prep work before each session to kind of, you know, I'll dive into your code base and help you solve bugs and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I do have one more opening for a student. Either hit me up on Twitter at SeanA0400 or my email, which you can find on the site. All right, looks like I got a couple last second questions. I'll go ahead and knock out these questions and then wrap it up. Hey Sean, have you started to implement iOS 11 in your apps? No, not yet. Definitely thought about it, and it's definitely on my mind, but official implementations haven't been updated yet because I don't have a good reason. But yeah, not yet. They will be though. I watched your video on contracting and how much you charged. Did you charge that amount of money for just doing iOS dev without any backend and design? Yeah, that was just pretty much iOS development stuff. If I have to design an app, if I have to design and build it, obviously put that rate a lot higher. Or it'll make the rate higher, or the project's going to take longer. Kind of depends on what the client wants there. Can you make some tutorials about continuous integration, other tools like Fastlane? Yeah, Dimitri, those are very, very useful tools. To be honest with you, I don't use Fastlane. I've been meaning to get in there and like start trying and start learning it. It's just one of those things I haven't got around to yet. As you know, with development, there's hundreds of things to learn and you want to learn. So yes. So anyway, the answer to your question is I may do a tutorial on that in the future. It'll be in the distant future though, because I would have to learn it first. Yeah, for those, Ben is recommending search YouTube for the some architecture type questions. How do I find your Q&A videos? Go to my channel. I have a playlist of all my live streams. So, and all my live streams, the way my live streams typically went, I would talk about a topic for like 5 to 7 minutes and then just open it up to Q&A and just answer that. So, yeah, just go to my channel, look for the live stream playlist, and you can start watching those. Ben Sullivan says a good technique is to create protocols for services like networking and put code in a protocol extension. Yep, I need to get better with my use of protocols in protocol-oriented programming. I want to mess with that too. Again, like I said, just add it to the list of stuff I want to learn that I haven't gotten around to yet. What are the major topics I need to learn? Things like concurrency, networking, UI kit. I'm pretty overwhelmed sometimes. What advice do you give on that? Yeah, it's like I've kind of just said, I have 100 things on my list to learn. I just don't get around to it. There's so much to learn in development. That's why I completely empathize with you on how you feel overwhelmed. It's very easy to feel that way. Don't get discouraged by that. Like I said, here I am over 2 years into my career and I still kind of feel that way. There's just so much more stuff that I haven't gotten around to yet. But yeah, it sounds like you're on the right path with concurrency, networking, and UIKit. Those are some big ones. But yeah, I mean, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. I'm not going to say don't feel overwhelmed, because everybody does. But just know that even experienced developers still feel that way, because they're just an insane amount to learn. Thanks for answering my previous question. Last question. How do you proceed if you haven't received REST backend service? Like I said, I always receive that because, like I said, I can't give experience on what I do when I don't have that, because I always work with a professional backend dev. So I don't know how I act when I don't have that, because I've never had to do that. All right, later, Kilo. Enjoy your weekend. Indra says, Sean, do you only do mobile programming or have experience server side also? Nope, I am strictly Swift iOS dev. Like I said, I've only been a developer for a little over 2 years. So I'm sure as my career goes on, I'll pick up other languages and other, I do want to learn backend eventually. But for right now, where I'm at in my career, just 100% mobile, 100% Swift. John says, if you have a coding problem, have Google search Stack Overflow didn't help, what else would you use? So if there's not a quick and easy answer in a blog or a quick Google search, then I start diving into the Apple documentation, which some could argue that should be your first step, and I wouldn't argue with that at all. But the truth is, if it's something I think is a quick, common problem, I'll just go to Stack Overflow. If it's something unique that I'm working on that I know there's probably not a blog post or Stack Overflow, then it's Apple documentation time. Alistar says, have you been? Been great, man. Pavlos, what's going on? Sidar says, will you be attending iPhone 8 event? No, but I will be watching on my live stream, my Apple TV. Can't wait for that. iPhone 8, I'm super, super pumped. So, all right, guys, looks like we're at the end of the questions. Motown Investor says, hey, been doing this for 10 years. What's going on, Motown Investor? So, all right, looks like that's it for the week. I'm going to wrap it up. Again, that's going to be the last live stream for a couple weeks. I'll be back with live stream 2.0 with an actual live stream setup. I can share my screen. We can talk about coding stuff, talk about design, all that good stuff. So, looking forward to that, but we'll be taking a couple weeks off. So, see you guys in a few weeks.